Morning, morning. Before I go into a full intro, let's get a bit of energy in the room. Can everyone just stand up for me? We're going to play a little game. I know you've all just sat down. Okay. So quite a simple game. It's a logo game. So what I want you to do is sit down if you know the logo. If you know it, sit down. Okay, good. This is getting a little bit more difficult. There aren't too many. So if you stand up again, see if we know this one. Okay, a few standing. All together that are sitting down. This is? Instagram. Okay. Next one. I forgot to tell you to stand up. No. Okay. And stand up again. Last one. Excellent. None of you guys use it either. Okay. I'm not with the cool kids. Okay. This is, for those of you who don't know, this is Snapchat. Okay? Okay. Excellent. Okay. Good. So we've all got some energy moving around. So as Alison said, I'm Mark Tillison. I run a successful digital marketing agency. So we cover SEO, pay-per-click, and social media as well. We have different teams for each. And also, as Alison said, we're really proud to celebrate one of our clients reaching 1 million Facebook fans in December. And that was from 8,500. And none of those are bought from Mexico. There's none of that rubbish going on. Okay, so they're genuine fans who just really like the brand. So what we're going to go through is social media in context, so how it actually fits into overall marketing, what you should be using it for. And there's a lot of people who are using it incorrectly and annoying lots of people on social media. Okay. Why it's important, we'll go through some tips for success and then about picking the right platforms for your business. And then hopefully at the end, if I don't overrun, probably will, we'll get through some Q&A as well, or you can find me afterwards as well. So let's just talk about the context of digital marketing and, in fact, marketing generally. So where does social media fit? So we use this marketing funnel. If you can't read that, maybe it's a bit too small. At the top, this is all about branding. This is all about positioning, creating awareness of your business, creating awareness of your brand. And that can be done through content. Any bloggers? Who blogs? Show of hands. Few of you? Okay, good. It's about engaging an audience, also wedding shows, etc. That's going to create more awareness. That's, there's an opportunity, there's a different photographer or somewhere I can buy a dress or whatever it might be. Okay, so that's what we call top of funnel activity, and social media very much fits in there. The second layer is search online. So how many of you using Google AdWords? A few of you, okay, good. And obviously SEO fits in that as well. So if somebody's searching for wedding dresses Birmingham or wedding hotels in Birmingham, whatever it might be, obviously there's some search there. Now, the likelihood of someone clicking your ad or clicking your organic link through to your website is much stronger if they already know your brand, because you're doing a better job in the top layer. Okay, so if I've already seen you on Twitter or on Facebook, or I've seen you at an exhibition, I've seen you in a local paper, a magazine, maybe some PR, that middle layer of search works much better. Okay, and then that last level we call user experience is, okay, you're top ranked on Google for the search term that I searched for, so you're a provider of that service, and I've already seen you, maybe I've seen you on the local news on TV, maybe I've heard you on the radio. And then I get to your website, and I can't find my way around, and I can't find things. So I'm less likely to inquire at that point. If you do a great job on all three, and that's a whole different presentation, then you get more inquiries, and the whole thing works much better. But in context, social media fits in the top. So it's not necessarily about direct sales, unless you're doing some sort of promotion. Okay, more on that in a bit. Okay, so why is social media important? The point of being active, and that's a key term here, active on social media, is really to engage an audience. Frequency is really important, okay? How many of you using Twitter? Keep your hand up if you tweet more than once a day. More than twice a day? More than 5 times a day? Okay. There's about one person in the room who's probably tweeting enough. Okay? Yeah, absolutely. I'll come on to that when we get to Twitter at the end. So yeah, frequency is really important. Just a little tip, I don't know if Alan's still in the room, but when you tweet, obviously when you're replying to somebody, if you start your tweet with the @ symbol, as in @Tillison, thanks for so-and-so and so-and-so, there's about a 75% less chance of other people seeing that tweet, because Twitter recognises it as a conversation. So if you just put full stop @Tillison, then your followers are much more likely to see it, okay? So, but yeah, certainly in terms of that frequency. But also, as I say, it's really about engagement. This isn't a broadcast medium. You're broadcasting to your existing audience. If that's quite small, then there's a good chance that they're going to see your tweets or your Facebook posts, or not. And I'll come to that in a bit as well. But yeah, it's about brand equity. It's about reaching that audience and convincing them that your brand is a brand that they want to work with. It's great for networking. So you shouldn't think of platforms like Twitter and Google+, certainly, as just ways to reach your customers. You're all in the same industry. How many of you get work through referrals from people who provide slightly different services to the bridal industry? Show of hands. How much of your business is referrals? A third. So a third come through referrals. So what if you could build a network of people on Twitter who are in the industry? So where do you get your referrals from? What do you do? Photographer. So where do you get your referrals from? People who do flowers, people who do hair, people who do venues? Okay, people you work with on other weddings, yeah? So what if you could double the number of people that knew how great you were at photography? And you could do that with social media. So it's not just about creating more awareness with the audience who's about to get married, but it's also creating a referral network from people who know that you're great. Okay? And if they're retweeting your content or resharing your content, then their audience that they're engaging with also gets to see your wonderful photographs, or your cake, or the dress, or whatever it might be. Okay? It's about demonstrating your brand personality. And I've got another section just coming up on this in a moment. But define your personality and make sure that what you are sharing fits that personality as well. So it's just a few examples coming across. As I say, it's great for engagement. So make sure you ask questions. You know, don't just say, here's an offer, here's another dress, here's a photograph I took. Actually ask questions as well. If you can, try and do a little poll. Ask little funny things, you know, stuff like that. Do you prefer A or B? Put 2 photographs, put 2 images next to each other. Which do you prefer? Try and engage people, get some response, because response means that people who follow them on Twitter or Google+ or Facebook are much more likely to see that interaction as well. So it's not, don't think of it as an advertising medium, and that is a lot of people make that mistake. So let's just go through some tips then. I don't know why I did these cards. I'm just kind of winging it. Okay. So can anyone in the room tell me that they have a definition of their audience? Have they sat down and thought, are you dealing always with the bride? Are you dealing with the couple? Who wears the trousers in that relationship? Who ultimately makes that decision? How much do they earn? What car do they drive? Where do they live? Could be an important one as well. Has anyone gone through that process? Yeah? You have? Do you want to share it?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
My absolute typical customer is between about 26 and 45, lives in London, getting married in the Midlands, and loves food female.
Okay,
Is that right?
excellent. Yeah, so having that definition, what I tend to do if I'm writing a blog post or if I'm tweeting just a general tweet, obviously if I'm replying to somebody, I'm talking to them. But I have a picture in my head, and it might be actually a real person that defines who I want to talk to. So if you have a much greater definition of who you are talking to, what you share, and what you tweet or post on Facebook is very much guided around them. So kittens work great on social media, okay? Everyone loves kittens. But your audience isn't everyone. Your audience is somebody who's 26 to 44, 45, who lives in London, get married in the West Midlands or whatever. So you know who that person is. So do kittens work with that person? And if they don't, then you shouldn't be sharing that stuff, okay? Should you be doing selfies? Everyone does selfies, right? But do they fit the profile of the person that you want to deal with? Because if they don't, you shouldn't be doing that stuff, okay? If that person is, inspired by fantastic vistas of places they could go on their honeymoon and sites from around the world, then certainly you should be having that kind of stuff maybe in the mix of what you're sharing. So we've got a definition of who we're speaking to, but you also need, and hopefully you've done this through your marketing, has anyone gone through a branding workshop or a branding exercise to define what the principles are of their brand? Okay, we did that a couple of years ago, believe it or not. We've been trading since 2007, and we did a brand workshop about 18 months ago, which was tremendous fun, and trying to get us down to 3 terms that defined our business, we found impossible, so we ended up with 4. and we argued for hours, and we ended up with 4. But again, if you've got a definition of what your brand stands for, is it elegant? Is it professional? Is it a bit cheeky, a bit fun? That's your personality that should also come across on social media. So the behaviour, the way that you behave on social media, regardless of the platform, should be the audience that you're speaking to, and everything that you share should be consistent with that audience, okay? Don't ever share anything that person's not going to like, or that's not going to inspire them, or isn't going to connect you in some way to them, okay? So even if it's something that just makes them smile, if that's what fits with your brand and your audience, then that's cool. If that's not what your brand and your audience want to see, then it isn't, okay? So there's tons and tons and tons of stuff you can share. There's more YouTube videos created every minute that you could possibly watch in that minute, okay? So if you are watching things on YouTube, there's millions of videos you could potentially share every day. If you know the context of your audience and your brand, then you can narrow that down much more easily. Oops. So what should you share? Anyone who's a blogger, do you have a content plan, or do you just wing it? Do you just kind of, oh, this is really winding me up, I'm going to write a blog? Anyone created a content plan? You actually have a plan, which is excellent. This doesn't need to be tomorrow I'm doing this and the day after I'm doing that. This could just be, I've got about 4 or 5 blog posts that I want to create, and maybe I'll do one of those every couple of weeks. Maybe it's every 3 weeks. Create a calendar of events. That's a good guide. Again, it gives you that context of what you're going to create. So again, that might be, we have a huge one because we deal with so many clients, but it might be charity events. It might be London Fashion Week, if that's relevant. It might be Mother's Day. It might be Valentine's Day. I'm sure that's quite a popular one for you. But again, think of the things that are relevant to your audience. They may not be specifically relevant to exactly what you do, but Valentine's Day, well, you're dealing with couples, so Valentine's Day's got to be somewhere on your calendar, right? And certainly you should be doing some things around Valentine's Day of what you're sharing or what you're blogging about, or photographs or little fun images you're creating. Plan ahead and do create a habit. That's the biggest thing I've found with blogging is if you get into the habit of doing it, it becomes much easier. If you leave it and procrastinate, it becomes much, much harder, and you put yourself under a ton of pressure to get around to doing it. So create a habit and stick to it. And the other thing is Does anyone have time to write a blog post every week? One person, okay? No? Lady behind you. Yeah, so one blog post a week. You know, it's rare that any of us have got time to do that. Certainly in small businesses, that's very difficult. So the other thing to remember, particularly in your industry, is they're always new customers. They get married, you can't really sell them anything else. So the new customers coming in, the next wave, they haven't seen that content. So as long as it's what we call evergreen content, it doesn't really go out of fashion, reshare it. It's not going to do any harm. You know, you talk to people all the time, you're like, wow, I can't create a blog post every day. I can't create a new image every day. I can't, you know, well, you don't need to. You know, don't reshare the same thing like every day and don't do it every week. But there's certainly older things that you've done that are still relevant to the new audience coming through. So you don't have to find tons and tons of stuff. What else to share? And this is where you can certainly get the frequency of your posts and interaction a lot higher. So curate content. So we've talked about creating content, but curate content as well. And if I get time at the end, I'll show you some tools of how to do this. But if you are following other Twitter accounts or your other Facebook pages for other people in your industry that are sharing relevant content, share their content with your audience as well. It's going to help you network. You'll get some appreciation from those different companies and those other businesses. And you'll be on their radar. So when someone says, oh, do you know someone who does great wedding cakes? Oh, yeah. Front of mind. Why? Because I share your stuff all the time. Okay? So you're starting to build some trust in that relationship. Don't overdo that. But it's certainly a way that you can keep activity on your Facebook page or your Twitter feed so you're there regularly, rather than tweeting once and then 4 or 5 days later tweeting again. It's not really going to get you much attention in what they call the Twitter fire hose. I mean, there's so many tweets coming out every single minute. If your audience is following hundreds or thousands of people, which they could be, the chances of them seeing your one tweet a week or one tweet a day is very, very slim. Okay, so you just need to think about the noise that surrounds each of those users. And certainly on Facebook, that's true as well. So the more frequently you post, the more likely it is that your post or your tweet is going to be seen as well. And as I say, curating content is a neat way of doing that. When you do reshare, Twitter is a little bit difficult because it's quite restricted, but certainly with platforms like Google Plus and with Facebook, don't just reshare. Ideally, add some of your own thoughts and some of your own feelings about this piece. Oh, this is really great because, or I had the pleasure of working with this person on a wedding recently. They were really amazing and great, or whatever it might be. But add your own thoughts to it. Don't just blindly reshare. Add some value to it. Again, that's going to help you gain attention and respect of the other businesses who are in your industry that can refer business to you as well. And as you said, a third of your work comes through referrals. So, very much build a community around you. And position your brand. Remember, what you are curating still needs to fit those guidelines of, is my audience interested in this? If your audience is Jane, does Jane like this? Would Jane like this? Would that make Jane smile? Would Jane be interested in this? And if it's Dave, same questions, okay? Just checking you're paying attention. These are great, by the way. You'll see them all the time. I went through about 15 before I found one without any swearing on it. But this kind of stuff, again, don't overdo it with these, but certainly in the mix of what you're sharing, put some of those in. Again, if it's relevant and it fits your audience and your brand. If your brand isn't this kind of really fun thing, then don't do that. I saw this quote 2 days ago and I thought, I've got to put it in here because it's brilliant. The best way to get someone's attention is to give them yours. And this is what I was saying before about, I'll just put a promotional tweet out. I'll do a promotional tweet. I'll do a promotional tweet. You're not paying attention to anybody if you're doing that. And attention is the really important thing here. That's what social media does for you as a business. It allows you to pay attention to your audience. Okay? Second point is, don't try and do every social media platform. Okay, I'm on most of them. I spend most of my time probably on Twitter, and the second greatest amount of my time is Google+. I do spend a little bit of time on LinkedIn. It's not really relevant to your industry, but I guess most of you have heard of LinkedIn and you've probably got a profile there. But certainly you are much better off doing a great job of one platform than trying to do 3 or 4. If you have the time to do 2, then certainly do 2 and pick the 2 that are most important to you. And we'll come on to how you pick those shortly. Balanced diet. Okay, so for those of you that are tweeting maybe once a day or less, what you're doing is spending time in that 20% of promotion. Okay, assuming that you are tweeting or sharing something on Facebook that is a promotional post. Okay, 30% should be information. So this is something to educate your audience. So this might be, I don't know, ways to pick your ideal wedding dress, or things to consider when you're thinking about your cake, whatever it might be. So top tips, things like that. And again, they needn't be yours. They could be somebody else's. Obviously, don't introduce a competitor directly into your stream, but you know, if it's someone from the States, then there's no chance of your customer probably buying from that company. Okay. And then 50% of your time really should be engaging. So these should be asking questions, as I mentioned before, doing little polls, and there could be little fun things. Okay. Within that, how many of you, show of hands, how many have run promotions, competitions, retweet and follow to win, that kind of stuff? Anybody done any of those? Couple? Okay. How many of you have seen those? Lots of you. None have done them. Okay. So things like that, they're more engaging. Okay. But certainly that sort of balance should be a guideline for you. You'll probably find if you end up following me on Twitter that there's more like 80-90% engagement. I'm always chatting away and tweeting to people. And then there's probably the rest of it's information. We don't really go, do you need SEO for your company? You should come to us. We don't do that stuff. Okay. That might happen on our main Team Tillison account, but it doesn't particularly happen on mine. Usually it's kind of blog posts and things you can learn how to do social media. You know, it might be a blog post on Facebook or something like that. So platforms, I dropped LinkedIn out of here because it's, as I say, it's not really relevant to your businesses. So Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and Pinterest. Let's have a skip to my notes. So with Facebook, how many of you have a Facebook page? Show of hands. So that's pretty strong. Okay. Post at least daily. I would strongly recommend. Again, remember, this doesn't have to be a brand new post. This doesn't have to be something that you agonize over for an hour and a half and creating something. This could be something that you've shared before, but several weeks ago. This could be some photographs of something, that, an event you just did, for example, or an event that you did 6 months ago, or something like that. Keep it consistent. Follow the 20-30-50 rule. The one I just mentioned, so a balanced diet in there. Don't just promote. How many of you buy a newspaper every day? A few of you? Do you buy it for the ads at the back there? No. No one follows your Facebook page for the ads, okay? So don't make it an advertiser. Have a balance in there. Don't just keep promoting. It turns your audience off and they will click that little button that says unfollow. Okay, they'll get bored, or they'll block you. Okay, which means they can't see your tweets or your Facebook posts anymore. Anyway, if you are going to run competitions on Facebook, keep them simple. Okay, don't say like our page, reshare this post, tag your friend, and if you do all of those things, you might be in a chance of winning. That's really hard work. I look at those, and I know most people look at those and go, oh, I can't be bothered. So you will get some people doing it, but the percentage uptake of that is going to be very, very low. So keep it really simple. Just ask a question and get a response. Or better still, if you can do this, if there's a draw for a prize or something like that, then take them off to a web page where they can fill in their name and their phone number and their email. And then you've got something to follow up with your email marketing. Okay, so that's something I strongly recommend. You'll get lots more entries, you'll get lots more email addresses, you'll get lots more engagement, and the more engagement you have on a post, the greater it virally spreads for free. Okay. Image posts and video get much more engagement on Facebook and much more visibility in everyone's news feed than basic text. The more engagement you have on a Facebook page, the more likes, the more comments on there, the higher that scores in what Facebook calls EdgeRank. EdgeRank is the algorithm that decides what I see when I log into Facebook on my newsfeed. I don't see every post. I don't see every post my friends make. And I certainly don't see every post from brands that I like and follow on Facebook as well. So the competition for attention on there is huge on Facebook. This is one of the reasons why Facebook have introduced the pay-per-click model. Not least because they're a huge company that have got millions and billions of dollars invested in them, and somebody wants their money back at some point, which is why they've done ads. But also, if you think about the average Facebook user, they have 300 friends, and that's probably growing as people have grown up with Facebook. You know, I've got teenage kids. They've probably got more friends than me on Facebook already. But if you imagine the average user has 300 friends, and the average page or person posts 5 times a day. So that's 1,500 posts for the average user. Who the hell has got that time to read through 1,500 posts? Nobody. So Facebook's EdgeRank algorithm decides what's important to me, and what's important to you, and what's important to you, and what's important to you, and then it tailors what you see in your newsfeed based on that algorithm. So the reach of any of your posts is defined by the content and also the level of engagement. So if you post something great that starts getting lots of engagement, you'll find that the graph sort of does this. It does this kind of hockey stick, and suddenly it gets lots more. It tips, because it then suddenly Facebook goes, well, there's loads of interaction, it must be great. We want people to stay on the platform, so we'll start promoting your post to more people's news feeds. Okay? And you can't predict how that will happen, by the way. People go, can you create me a viral campaign? Not really. I can create something, or my team can create something, I should say, that has all the elements to make that happen, but there's no way you can guarantee it. You just can't. Boost posts as well. And you can spend a very small amount of money doing this, but if you're trying to get in front of a specific audience, if they're a local audience, if they are ladies who are 26 to 45 in London or in Birmingham or wherever that might be, you can do that. And you can even target people who have specific interests, you can target people who are engaged, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole load of targeting criteria that you can really narrow down to a very specific audience. And you can spend £2 or £3. And if it's really effective and it goes really well, then you can spend more. Okay? With Twitter, post several times a day. Again, maintain consistency with your brand. That's really important. Follow the 20, 30, 50 rule. And again, talking about consistency with Facebook and with Twitter and all the other platforms, make sure that your bio, make sure that your picture, make sure your header image is also consistent with your brand as well. Okay. Use relevant hashtags. Hashtags are really important with Twitter. Okay, and do mention users as well. Don't spam people. I mean, don't go at Richard Branson, at Richard Branson, at Richard or whoever all the time. But do use the hashtags. People do monitor hashtags. And for those of you who don't use Twitter, hashtags are used to link conversations together about the same thing. Okay, so if somebody's talking about there've been a whole rash of these 5 words to do something just lately. So 5 words to ruin a wedding, things like that. I mean, and then you'll just get millions of people around the world just joining in with this hashtag. Again, because there's lots of people monitoring those hashtags and lots of people seeing them, if you join in on those conversations, then people monitoring those hashtags are going to see your tweets, even people who aren't currently following you. So that's really important with Twitter, is make sure you use the hashtags. You can make your own up. I get asked, what hashtags can I use? Where's the list? There is no list. It's completely organic. Make them up as you go along. I do. Loads of them. Really daft. Do any of the tweeters getting involved with chat hours? A few of you. Okay. Chat hours are absolutely amazing. So I mentioned hashtags. So what you will find, and I have just literally last week, I think it was, published on our blog a list of all of the chat hours for the UK. And when you see it, you will understand how long it took me. I didn't think it would take me that long, and I got into it, and I thought, I can't stop now. I've just got to finish this thing. And it became a labour of love. Okay, there are, I think, about 4 or 5 chat hours specifically for wedding industry. So I think there's wedding hour, there's bride's hour. I think there's another one. There's a section in there. I grouped all these things together. You will find that there's West Mids hour, there's Midlands hour, there's bride's hour, there's all sorts. Okay, but if you ever look at that post. And then what happens is, and it will tell you in there, this is between 8 and 9 o'clock PM every Wednesday evening, or every Thursday, or every Saturday morning, whenever it is, okay? And it's basically like a networking meeting. How many of you go do the breakfast networking thing? You all do that? Okay, a few of you. So the hashtag hours are very similar to that. So I do Hampshire Hour a lot, and I've built up lots of connections, lots of friends. We've had referred business through that, and we get people to come to networking events. I do one around Hampshire called Curry Business, which is a load of businesses going out for a curry. Simple concept. Everyone loves it. There's no agenda. There's no elevator pitches. We just turn up. We all have a curry, and a bit of the money goes to a charity. It's always a local charity. It's a great night out. If you want to set one up, I haven't patented it or anything. Just go and do it. It's great fun. But it means the relationships from Twitter, from chat hours like Hampshire Hour, you could say, well, let's take this relationship from a digital relationship and meet in real life. How many times do you go, oh, we must have a cup of coffee sometime? You know all those? Do you know what my answer is? Come to Curry Business. We'll have a chat there. And then you can meet lots of other people who are all local businesses as well. Okay? So chat hours, as I say, they can be quite intensive. I mean, you know, a lot of people first come to Hampshire Hour and they go, oh my God, how do you keep up with this? Because it literally is so quick. When you've got hundreds of businesses all talking to each other back and forth, you spend time on that feed for that hashtag, and it'll update every 5-10 seconds because there's everybody tweeting. For me, what I tend to do is I tend to share a few things. I'll say, good evening, how is everybody? What have you been up to? Blimey, isn't it cold? Or something like that. And I probably spend the first 10 minutes doing that, and the remaining 50 minutes of that hour, I'm in the notifications feed just replying to people and having a bit of a laugh. Okay? But absolutely engage in those chat hours. It will help you reach certainly other local businesses that you should be connected to, because you can refer work to them and they can refer work to you. Twitter does have a self-service ad platform as well. So if you want to accelerate your growth of your fans, your followers, then certainly use pay-per-click. And again, £1 or £2 minimum spend on there. And again, the targeting is around people using particular hashtags, people in particular locations, things like that. So we've had some good success with that. Don't cross-post. It's one of my pet hates. So you can connect your Facebook account to your Twitter account, and every time you post on Facebook, you get a tweet going, I just posted a new photo to Facebook. I posted a new photo to Facebook. I posted a new photo to Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. If you want me to see a photo, I'm more likely to see your photo if you share it natively to Twitter, because it will show in the stream. If you make me work hard and click the link to go to Facebook to go and see your picture, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to ignore it, and I'm going to scroll past it. Okay? So don't cross-post. Don't spam people. I called someone out the other day for doing this a few months ago and ended up with an absolutely massive argument. I wish I'd just unfollowed and kept my mouth shut, but I was trying to help. And what they were doing is saying, at John Smith, you should come and have a look at this. At Tillison, you should come and have a look at this. At so-and-so, come and have a look at this. And literally 50 tweets, one after the other. I was, hang on a minute, this isn't social. This is a bit like going to a meeting here and me going, would you like some SEO? How about you? Would you like some SEO? What about you? What about you? How annoying is that? Okay, so don't do that. That will just annoy everybody. And don't overpitch, okay? So don't constantly go, come and buy our service, come and buy our service. Here's a dress, here's another dress, here's another dress. Look at this cake, look at this cake. You need to do more than that, okay? People want to engage with you. They want to understand what your personality is, and does it match with their personality? Something that Alan was saying earlier, similar sort of thing. They need to get to know you, and that's what social media is all about. Google Plus, how many Google Plus users? Anyone? Couple? Excellent. I've got a whole talk on Google Plus later, so I won't dive too much into this. Again, post at least daily, keep it consistent. Again, use relevant hashtags, similar to Twitter, and do mention users. It's a plus rather than at, but mention users. Comment and engage on other people's posts 3 times more than you post your own content. Okay, so you're gaining attention by joining in the conversation. People will then follow you or circle you in Google Plus terms. And then they're much more likely to share your content if you've been sharing theirs. Okay, there's a real good community on Google Plus. There are some real good actual communities. So these are kind of subgroups. So you might find there are specific communities for your local area. You will probably find that there are specific communities for the wedding industry. And if there aren't, start one. Okay? Again, don't spam the same post. So if you've got some sort of offer on and you're in 6 different communities, what I see people doing quite a lot is just going, oh, here's a post to that community, and here's a post to that community, and that community, and that community. And what that looks like on your home feed is same post, same post, same post, same post. Okay, I've seen the post. I don't need to see it 4 times, or 10 times, or 15, or 20. Okay, what you're doing is talking over everybody else to gain attention. And that's not great in real life, and it's certainly not good on social media as well. Link litter, which is the American term for it, it basically just means you're dropping a link into a blog post, putting a little thing in, and then leaving. And then the next post is, here's a link to something, great. Here's a link to something, great. It's not very engaging, okay? You're not resharing other people's content, you're not building your brand, you're not gaining any trust or respect from the other users on that platform. And remember, the first word of social media is social, okay? So you're there to engage and be sociable with people. And again, don't overpitch. Pinterest, consistent bio with your brand, consistent picture. Create boards for each topic or subject. So if you are, let's say you're wedding dresses, that's what you do, and you work with different designers, you might have a different board for each designer, okay? Maybe you do, I don't know, slightly different cakes, and there's a different board for each type of cake. Maybe if you're a wedding venue, you might have a board for the different seasons, okay? Top tip for you, Gemma, who's an expert in this back in my office, reliably informs me, is to pin pictures directly from your website, okay? So rather than share them directly to Pinterest, there's a pin it extension for Google Chrome, and I assume Firefox as well. If you pin a picture from your website to Pinterest, then that will link back to your website when someone clicks it. Whereas if you share it natively to Pinterest, there's no link back to your website. So a little bit helpful for SEO, more on that in my other talk later, but more importantly, it's free traffic to your website. We all like that. So if someone sees a great dress or a nice cake or whatever it might be, they can click it and they come to the website and see it in the context, and then maybe they end up navigating through your website, and then maybe, heaven forbid, they pick up the phone and talk to you. Like that ever happens, okay? Repin other users' content. Of course, follow boards and users that are relevant, again, to your audience. So other people that are in your industry. You know, if you're a provider of cakes, pin dresses, because it's relevant to the audience, and they'll see the things that you pin come up in their newsfeed on Pinterest. And again, it means that you're in their feed, in their feed, in their feed, in their feed, without too much effort. Okay? So again, this is about frequency and attention without tons and tons and tons of effort. Be active once or twice a week, so probably go through and pin a few things, maybe share 1 or 2 things, something like that. Once or twice a week, something like that. You can create a private board, so pin a bunch of images. You might only have 2 or 3 to start with. You don't necessarily want that to be public yet. So you can create that as a private board, and then when you're ready, you share that and you can make that public. And then people can follow that individual board. And Pinterest is great for your industry because you'll find a lot of brides where they're planning this stuff is they're actually going to different websites and they're going, oh, I really like that dress, I really like that dress, I like that food, and I like that cake and that cake. And they'll put boards together. It's almost like I always think of it like a scrapbook, but it's a digital version of that. So if somebody's got a board and one of their friends is also getting married and looking at their board, they'll see that they've pinned your stuff, which means they'll then go and look at the board that you pinned it on and see lots of other things that you do as well. So it's a great way of attracting people to your content and your style and the things that you output as well. And a big no-no, don't overpin. So don't just sit there going, I'll pin that, I'll pin that, I'll pin that, I'll pin that. You know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. So don't overdo it. And that's true with a lot of the social media, by the way. Just don't overdo it. It's really easy to. So I'll give you an example of a 5-a-day diet. So this is just literally every day on Twitter, and try this for 30 days, and then tweet me, let me know how you get on, okay? So follow 5 interesting or relevant accounts. So remember the context of what you're doing, remember your brand, remember your audience, okay? So if there's a number of great wedding venues near you, you should be following them, okay? Because your audience is quite possibly following them as well. Just hit the favourite button. I spelt it correctly. Twitter doesn't. It's insisting on no you in it, but there we go. But yes, favourite relevant tweets. Okay? When you favourite something, when you retweet something, when you follow somebody, they get alerted that you are following, that you favorited, that you retweeted. And the etiquette generally is that if you follow someone, they will usually follow back or add you to a list. There's a video on that on the website, but I won't go into that now. But you've got their attention by following. You'll gain much more attention by retweeting their content. That's a lot, but you told your followers about what they were doing. So I'm going to be much more grateful to you as an individual if you do that. And I'll probably reply to you and say, oh, thanks for the retweet, how's your day going? Oh my God, that's a conversation. Okay, and that's what we're here for, okay? So retweet 5 tweets that are relevant to your audience as well, and reply to some. So look through your news feed at the people you are following, those local venues, those other local wedding suppliers, whoever that might be, and reply to them. If someone's asked a question, reply to them. If someone said, oh, it's a really chilly morning, and they've got a photo of their car covered in frost with an amusing thing on the windscreen or whatever it might be, just reply to it. Or retweet it and say, lol, or haha, or whatever, whatever fits with your brand, okay? People who follow you, my usual protocol is I have a quick look and go, oh, they're just running the numbers, they're following me because they want me to follow back. They're not actually interested, they're on the other side of the world, don't care, I'll ignore them. But if they look like it's somebody I might want to engage with, I usually reply to them, and if you follow me, you'll see lots of these. I'll go, hello, at so-and-so, and then a little message to them. How's business going? Or have you got any snow yet? Because we've got somewhere we are, or whatever it is. But I start a conversation with them. And then if they reply and engage, then I follow back. Okay? I don't typically, this is my rule, you don't have to follow this, but I don't typically just follow everybody that follows me. That's kind of my own rule. But yeah, certainly say hello, say thank you, and start a conversation. So I've got a few minutes just to run through a few tools. So hopefully some of you have used these. How many of you use Hootsuite? A few of you, okay. Hootsuite's a great tool. There's a free version of it and a paid version of it. Usual thing with software as a service. You can do more stuff with the premium one, okay. But Hootsuite will give you a dashboard if you're managing multiple Twitter accounts, if you're managing a Facebook page, a Google Plus page, and a Twitter account. It means you can have them all on one screen, rather than going, I'll share this on Twitter, then I go off to Facebook and I share that there, and then whatever, okay? So you can post directly to all of those. You can queue posts up as well. So if you spend half an hour in the morning or 10 minutes going, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, you can basically buffer that and it will share it at the appropriate time during the day. And it works out when the best time is. So you can do things like that. Or you can create a big spreadsheet of hundreds of tweets and then let it drip feed them out to your account. So Hootsuite's a really good one. Buffer in the middle there, I use Buffer personally. So what I tend to do is I'll read some content with Feedly. Feedly is a service where you can pull an RSS feed, so a feed of content from the websites that you want to subscribe to. So they could be wedding magazines, they could be I don't know, blog posts from other local suppliers, wherever it might be. And then you pull that in, it's almost like your own little newspaper. And then from there you can share directly to Buffer, which is what I do. So 1 o'clock in the morning, wife's asleep, I'm on Feedly reading stuff, and then sharing it, and I buffer it, and then it will just drip that over the course of the next 2 or 3 days. So great little tool. Feedly, I explained. The other way of curating content is maybe to use Google Alerts. So when you do a search on Google, there's usually a thing at the bottom that says, get alerts for this query. So what you do there is it'll email you daily or weekly of all the things that are new on the web that match that query. So you could have a daily digest of wedding industry news or whatever it might be. Okay? And then from there, you can read those articles and decide whether to share them, and whether you share them immediately, whether you queue them up in Buffer or Hootsuite is entirely up to you. Goo.gl and Bitly are both URL shorteners. So obviously if you go to our site and you're reading a blog post, it will be tillison.co.uk/2015/02/ this is the name of my post. That's going to take up all of your space in your tweet. Okay? So what it does, it shortens it. But the other real valuable thing that both of those do is you can log into those and it will give you stats about how many people have seen those links or clicked through as well. So really valuable to see how that's going. Sumall is used to be called 20 Feet, and you can connect your social media accounts to that, and it will send you a nice, neat weekly report that says what your reach was on Twitter, how many engagements you had, and how you did for this week versus the previous week, and things like that. So again, really neat tool to see how you're doing. Social Oomph, finally, is we use this just to have a steady kind of bed of tweets, for example, in my account. So there might be 300 tweets, and it will just keep going through maybe 3 or 4 of those a day, and it will drip feed them each day. So there's always a bed of tweets. So even though I'm standing here and I'll be here all day, there's still tweets going out on my account. Okay? So we tend to use Social Oomph for that. That one is a paid service, by the way. We do have on the website, or if you want to give me a business card and just write Twitter or Google Plus or both, and I can sign you up to that, and that will just get delivered by email to you. So there's a guide to how to succeed on Twitter for business, whole load of tips, loads of video, things like that, and the same with Google Plus as well. Did I do it? I'm in time?